Hello?
Hi.
Are you coming to the happy hour? I need to vent.
I'm still at the office.
Oh my god, are you trying to be CEO or something?
Yeah.
You'll get there, but I'll see you at happy hour.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing, Izzy? Our
Good.
first Zoom podcast.
I know, it's crazy.
We're home for the holidays, so Izzy's zooming in from New York and I'm zooming from Houston. We're
Yes,
both from Houston, so you'll be here on Monday. So looking
I
forward to
know.
that.
Yes, which is crazy. It's so crazy, like right now, everything wrapping up with work and the holidays, and it's very busy.
Yeah. So how do you feel about being home for the holidays? I feel that there's a huge shift once you graduate college and you're used to a 1 month break, and then you
Yeah,
realize that during the holidays you only have like 2 days off or 3 days off. I mean,
I know.
I have a little longer, thankfully, because if you go
I
into
know. I know. I think one thing that like a lot of people are shocked about is that not all companies give you like a whole week off for
yeah,
Christmas or whatever holidays that you celebrate. I th feel like a lot of people have the expectation, like you said, like moving from college, you are used to that, and like the rest of the world still has to make money and work, so it's harder to take that time off.
yeah. Some people only have Christmas Day off.
Yeah, I mean, I only have Christmas Day off and New Year's Day. So,
Wow.
I mean, you have to use your PTO if you want to have a little bit of extra time, but I
That's a
feel like
good tip. Save your PTO for the holidays.
yeah. Or I mean, a lot of people are flexible. Like at my office, if we want to work from home, because everyone understands, you want to go be with your family during the holidays, they're really lax about it, which I feel like if you ask far enough in advance, they should be pretty chill about it,
That's good.
which is super nice. And I feel like since COVID, everyone's used to working remote. Um,
Yeah.
but things are slowly transitioning back to the office, it feels like. Um, Speaking of that, what do you think about working fully in the office versus fully remote or versus hybrid work? Do you have a preference?
I really like being in person. I think in person is always better. You just really get to bond with your coworkers and make business decisions more conveniently and just more positively when you're in person. You get to sense a certain vibe or just mood of certain projects when you're in person, and rather on Zoom and you're doing business deals, or if you're, just keeping those connections over Zoom, sometimes it's really hard to bond or connect.
Right.
And I think that there's been a huge shift recently after COVID that everyone wants to return back to offices. Hybrid being the most popular, which I think hybrid is really great, but it's still a lot harder for me to work at home on those Mondays and Fridays. But being in person Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is really great and I love it. I just think it's so much easier to get work done and just be able to say, hey, to your coworker, is this how I do this? Or can we reach out to this person about this rather than having to send, a long
A
email to ask that
Slack
question.
or
Yeah,
something.
a Slack or something. Exactly. But what about you? What are your thoughts?
I really like fully in person, like I think hybrid is great. It allows you a lot of flexibility. You can, if you're not feeling so great on a Friday, you can take it easy at home, which is nice. But I mean, my work is fully in person, and I didn't know how I would feel about it, but I actually really love it because like you said, like you bond so much more with your coworkers. You're able to, if you have an idea, you can walk into your boss's office and say, "Hey, I was just thinking about this. Like, do you have a few minutes to talk?" Instead of saying, "Oh, can we set up a meeting?" And then it's not until the next day and things move a lot slower whenever you're remote. Um, so
Exactly.
that's really, and I think like being in the office allows you to, like bond more with your coworkers. Like it allows for
Yeah.
you to get to know them better, and which then leads to you working better together. Um, like I feel like being fully in person, I've gotten a lot closer with coworkers quicker than if I were to be from home.
Also, when you work in person with those coworkers and form strong relationships, those help you in the long run. Because going forward, I think it's former coworkers who can vouch for you when you're looking
Totally.
for a new job, or, everyone grows and goes to different companies. And the more experience you get face to face working with someone, the stronger that relationship is and the more they will want to bring you on or keep in touch with you. It's really hard to form a strong relationship in remote jobs and that's going to make it harder to make an impression at work and stay in touch with those people that you work with.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of that, I mean, we've made connections here and there, like all throughout college and, being young in our careers. Like, do you think it's important to reach out to those past coworkers or professors or peers at school, like, hey, happy holidays, just to kind of keep them relevant in your like Rolodex of contacts, I guess?
Yeah, I think that is so important during the holidays. It's a great opportunity to just think about all the past people you've worked with, past bosses, past mentors, past professors. Think about who's made an impact and who did you have a good relationship with, and just send them that happy holidays text. It means a lot and goes a long way. Because you never know when you might need to reach out to someone, and it's super awkward reaching out to someone who you haven't spoken to in like years
Yeah.
and asking about, a job or something work related. It won't feel very natural, but if you nurture those relationships over time and you're making sure to text them happy holidays or happy birthday, just simple things like that, then when you do need to reach out to them about something or ask them a question or ask for a favor, it doesn't feel so forced.
Yeah. No, I totally agree because you never know when you're going to need something from somebody that you
Exactly.
worked with in the past or an old professor or somebody like that. And you don't want to just reach out of the blue and say, "Oh, hey, how are you? I have this thing. Can you help?"
Yeah.
Like it's a little awkward. And if you continue this relationship, and it doesn't have to be like a big thing, like we said, like just text them happy birthday, happy holidays,
Exactly.
or oh, I saw this thing reminded me of you, like hope you're doing well. Just those little things go a long way. And I think
They
that the
do.
same kind of thing goes with friends, like
Mhm.
not close friends.
Yeah.
Just like the birthday text. I feel like
Hmm.
as we were when we were younger, it was such a big thing to like text people happy birthday, this whole paragraph, like I love you, blah blah blah. Like, but as we've gotten older, I feel like that is less and less and more just your close friends texting you happy birthday. Um,
Exactly.
but it's just one of those things that makes you feel good and it makes you remember, oh, this person does care about me. And then they're happy to help, whatever you need.
100%. That is so true. So that brings me to another question I have. I think, and this is just a personal view I have, I think that there's something that you can really leverage your network for that I don't think is done enough, and that's your resume.
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of times I don't know. I get anxious submitting my resume. Like maybe there's a typo or maybe something doesn't look great. And I don't think that people think to really go out of your way to ask as many people what they think about your resume.
Totally.
It's really easy to want to just keep your resume to yourself in private, but I think other people recognize some of your accomplishments a bit more. So I think that's one thing you should definitely leverage your network for is saying, "Hey, can you take a look at my resume and see what you think?" Because
Yeah,
might say, "Hey, you totally forgot this one huge thing that you did that really stood out to me," or, there's a typo there, or this doesn't really make sense. And I think that it's something that anyone that's applying for a new job or wants to change jobs, make sure you are sending out your resume to as many people to get their point of view. Do you have any other tips about resumes?
no, kind of jumping on what you said, like whenever I was applying or like whenever I was approached by a recruiter for my current job, like my resume I hadn't touched it in a year or so. And
Yeah,
um my dad has a connection who this woman who works in HR at Amazon. And so he put me in contact with her just to say like, "Oh, hey, like would you mind looking at my daughter's resume? Like she's, early in her career in New York and like would really love just your set of eyes on it." And she really like transformed my entire resume. Um like
that's really cool.
I met with her a few times. She looked at it and she was like, "Okay, I think that you need to put more like you say, you do all these things, but what was the outcome of you doing these things? Were there any like tangible results or like numerical value that you can put behind this? Because people, great, you know how to segment for marketing strategy, but what did that do?
What were the results?
Did it increase revenue by X%? If so, put that in there. Like you need to kind of like make people understand like the result of what you did because anyone can do these things or say that they did these things, but it really like was it impactful and how did you come about that?
Yeah.
So after she told me that, I put all those things in my resume and then I resent it to her and she was like, "This is amazing. Like see the
Wow.
difference." That the first one was okay, but now this one really shows that you have experience and that you've actioned these things because people care about things being actualized. Anyone can like come up with some hypothesis in their brain and be like, yeah, this would be a great idea. But like, can you actually execute it is the biggest thing that I think that people
People
look
are looking
for.
for.
A professor I had in college said the same thing. She was like, this class is going to teach you how to execute. It's not going to teach you how to come up with great ideas like every other class in school,
Wow.
which I thought was so interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I think that's a great tip you brought up about making sure your resume has the data to back up the points, has numbers. You just have to quantify as many things as
totally.
possible. That was something I learned late on too, and it really just makes everything stand out more. Like for
Yeah,
example, something for I used to do, a lot of work in fashion and fat for Fashion Week. Um, and I could have just said, did content capture and digital production for Fashion Week.
right.
Or I could say I helped to build a whole content creation schedule strategy and just, a bunch of touch points for over 225 events. Like that
Exactly.
sounds so much better. Just
Yeah,
any number. It doesn't have to be even an increase of something. It can even be a number around how many things you did,
totally.
how many, and you did this in X amount of time, or putting down, the days, the months, the years, any number you can throw in there to a point, it makes it so much stronger.
Yeah,
And it's something that can help your resume. And you have to be a little creative about what things you can pull in. Because some stats might be harder to pull, but just
yeah,
make sure you're keeping track of those things. Uh,
totally. And I
yeah.
think another interesting thing I want to hear your thoughts on is, nowadays you can use Canva to make a cutesy little resume or
Yeah.
um what do you think of like the more creative looking resumes versus just an old school text, black text on a white background, regular old resume? What do you think that people should be using?
Definitely just go with the simple and plain. I finally have gotten into a stage of my career where I'm reviewing resumes, and I it takes me 5 seconds to look at someone's resume. I just am looking straight at the points. Um, it does depend what field you're in.
Right.
If you're applying to be a graphic designer, that resume needs to look clean. It needs to look really put together, but it doesn't need to be colorful. I mean,
No.
a resume is not a portfolio. And someone told me one time, because, company culture is really important. And if there's anywhere on a resume you can slip in a little bit of your personality, like that's fine. If it's one line saying, my favorite fruit is blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, you can do that. You can be creative. There's no like exact perfect way to do a resume. Everyone does it differently. And that's something that I think people need to remember is that there's no perfect way. If you think something might like be laid out, be easier to understand if laid out a certain way, like it's your one page, do what
yeah,
you want. But that's why it's important to get feedback and get feedback from recruiters, get feedback from as many people as possible so you could see like, hey, does this make sense?
totally.
But in terms of it being plain and simple or colorful, and I even being in the creative industry, like I think it's always better to just have it black and white, simple. And also, you don't need to pull your last 10 years of experience on there. I would say only highlight the last three
5
key
years.
experiences on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone at my work has always said, for this was in regards to a portfolio, has said, you're only as strong as your weakest example on your portfolio or
Interesting.
something. And I think that's true to your resume. You're as strong as your weakest thing. So, I mean, I'm reaching a time where I might have done a really great internship for a brand, but like I don't want the recruiter to see that recently I was an intern, you know?
Yeah,
Like you might
totally.
want to take some of those things, start to take those things off, even if there's other things that might be interesting. And you can always pull those things back in if you're applying to a job that it's applicable for.
Right.
But you have to just keep only the strongest points on your resume because people are glancing at it so quickly. As soon as they see like maybe the word intern or whatever it is, and
They
you've
might be turned away.
they might be turned away because
Yeah.
like, oh, like that might be tricky to some people, but you never know. And again, jobs are so complicated and it always comes down to relationships. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and more than half the time, people barely spend time looking at your resume. They're just glancing at it to see, oh, they checked the box for the one
exactly.
thing that I'm looking for. I want to talk to this person. Um,
Exactly.
and like you mentioned a one page resume, which I want to say is like so important to keep it to one page. And I know it's like so tough to do
Exactly.
because you want to jam as much as you can in there because you feel like it's going to be your first impression, but no one has time to read more than half of your resume.
Exactly. Um, so something that's kind of stressful that we always talk about is asking for time off. And again, like it's holiday season, it can be a little stressful asking for those days off. But what are your tips about that and just making sure you're doing it correctly? And how do bosses usually react to these things?
I think it's so funny. This is something that I feel like all of us, we always freak out about. We're always nervous, like, oh, I don't know if this is too much time. I'm like so young in my career. Should I even be taking vacation? Um, I just started. Should I be taking vacation this soon to starting my job? But I mean, the reality is that more times than not, they're gonna say, yeah, sure, it's fine, like no worries about it. And you get yourself so worked up about nothing. But I think the most important thing is just make sure that it's communicated early as you can is the better. Um, that's really my only thing. I've never been in a situation where they say, no, you can't do that.
Exactly. Bosses are usually super chill.
Yeah,
And I think that as long as you're communicating it early as you can, that's always key.
totally.
And you don't want to ask for like a week off or if you know it's a busy time. But if you have to, if there's something you really want to attend, like a wedding, I think it's always best to communicate. But you'd also, that's another tip, you don't have to always communicate. Bosses usually don't care too much about what you have going on. Um, if you're
Yeah,
a
you
great
don't have to
employee,
explain yourself.
you don't have to explain yourself, especially if you're a great employee. That's why the key to all this is just to be a trustworthy, great employee that reaches deadlines and shows up because you'll find that when you ask for time off, they're actually happy for you and they want you.
Yeah,
And that's if you have a good boss. If you have a toxic
totally.
boss, you might want to look for a different job. But usually bosses want you to enjoy time off. And it's all about
Yeah,
how you ask. And you don't have to say, hey, can I please have this one day off because I'm going here? I haven't seen this person in forever. Like,
right.
no, you just say, can I have one day off?
Yeah,
And if they ask for a reason, if you have to say reason, like you can keep it very short,
totally.
family visiting, whatever it is. And people are usually very, very accepting. So,
Yeah. And another thing that somebody told me once was if you can, try to align your time off with when your boss is gone. Because if they're out of the office, then they don't want to reach you when they're out of the office. So you're
yeah.
pretty free to like de-stress and like put work aside for a second whenever you're taking that time off if you're both gone. Um, but I guess that kind of leads into like, do you have any tips on how to fully unplug from work when you're on vacation? I mean, it takes me a few days to get used to not
Yeah.
working.
Well, first I want to hit on of the taking days when your boss is off because I think that's where it depends where you work. 'Cause the smaller company you work and you might have to be on when your boss is off because it's just
True.
you two on a team. You might have to cover.
Yeah,
So your boss might be like, "No, you can't take off. I'm taking
true.
off. I need you to cover this." So, but if you work at a bigger company, like that's actually good advice because then you can chill. But in terms of rewinding for the holidays or just rewinding, taking time off, it's hard. It's hard. I always still respond. And I
Same.
think that like it's important to still kind of respond. I mean, that's the best thing about taking a day off. You just don't have to stay logged in, which is nice, but to show you're a valuable employee, I think it does show your boss a little bit of a like, hey, I got you, I'm there for you. Because if someone needs a document right away, that's
Yeah,
so easy to do from your phone or whatever.
literally.
Like doing those little things actually, especially early stage of your career, are still smart. But it's important to take time to yourself, and it always is going to take a long time to decompress. It's not something that's like, oh, I'm off today, I'm perfectly fine, I can chill.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little stressful, but I think that's something over time you get better at and you adapt more with. But it's hard during the holidays too, because family stress and
Yeah,
holiday stress, and then you're worried about work and going into the new year. But
I know. Because there's like just so much going on, especially around the holidays. But um, I think it's important to unplug and set your boundaries of no, I'm on vacation. Like
it
I
is
don't want to work while I'm on vacation, but also it's hard not to respond because
exactly.
you want to like be good at your job and say like I'm responsible. I still can do XYZ. But sometimes it does open a can of worms. Like if you're on vacation and then
Yeah,
you respond, then it leads to more stuff. And
so true.
I've definitely done
Put
that
put your
before.
your email
Out of
what is it called?
office.
Out of office
Yeah,
on, because it's helpful. And sometimes I forget to do it. And then I'm like, okay, well, this person, if they just saw an email bounce back that I was out of office, they will understand if I'm slow to respond. So it's always helpful to do so.
definitely.
All right. Well, thanks, Izzy. I think we covered a lot about just entering the workforce, resumes, cover letters. We didn't touch on because I hate them and I
I
don't
know,
want
I
them
hate
to.
them too. Can we get rid of them?
Yeah. But, going forward, um, everyone let us know what other subjects you'd like
Yeah,
us to talk about, especially for applications, interviews. Interviews, we'll talk about interviews soon.
totally.
Um, but yeah, I think that's it.
Great. Okay. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Izzy.
See you in
Okay.
Houston.